Hey, how you guys doing? It's William here, and we're going to talk about what is going on with Alpine F1 team. So, so here we go. Oh, sorry, don't copyright claim, please. I So Alpine F1 team is a rebranded team by Renault, which is Renault owns Alpine, and and then later now becomes beat up Alpine F1 team in 2021. And so there are bigger things going on. What is going on with Alpine F1 team right now? And we're gonna see their own perspective and their perspective. Oh my god, what am I doing? So here are the things what is going on. So Alpine F1 team, it's a rebrand team by Renault in the past, and they become since 2021, where they become Alpine F1 team, and ever since Alpine F1 team became a thing, the results are still the same as the Renault was back in F1 since 2016, but they now announced that the Alpine, they're ditching their main works F1 team of 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 Renault engines, and they're gonna go to a customer team, Mercedes, in 2026 season. And so it's gonna be very interesting now if this Alpine car can't become competitive again. And the last time where this same team and the same rebrand was 2015, 10 years ago, where Lotus they go to a Mercedes customer team in 2015 for one season deal, and even if they ditch Renault engine, the results are still as last season's. But despite they had a bad car, their highlight of the season for that is they got a podium in Belgium by Romain Grosjean, where he got third in just a few, like, it's only about a few laps ago, where he passed Sebastian Vettel, where Sebastian Vettel, he had a tire puncture, and Romain Grosjean got their Lotus first podium of the literally in their team's history. And so after the 2015 season, Renault himself this is where the Renault itself, now they're back again. And their return now it's they had a bad season at first, 2016, and but 2017 it was basically slight improvement, or major improvement, which they got Nico Hulkenberg their lineup, which they did pretty well, and they got Renault 6 in the constructors championship, higher than their rivals, and then later in 2018, now things are now comes to a change. Renault, they're still the same terribly terrible engine they produced at the V6 turbo. And Renault, I mean, ever since 2014, um, Renault, they did not master the V6 turbo at all. And yet they still supply to other teams. Red Bull, before 2018, Renault got Renault, Red Bull, and Toro Rosso, and with Red Bull they got their Tag Heuer, and Toro Rosso got Toro Rosso badge with Renault, and now in 2018, Toro Rosso left. They ditched Renault yet again, and this time for good. They're going to Toro Rosso. They're going to Honda engine deal and see how they can develop. And McLaren, they're going to Renault too. They go to Renault as well. McLaren, they ditch Honda to go Renault and see if they finally get back in action. And Renault, they got Red Bull and McLaren in their disposal. And in 2018, even though Renault, they are slightly improving, they got the better straight-line speed than the other customers. But depending on the car, Red Bull got the upper hand. But the straight-line speed is terrible. And McLaren, the Red Bull straight-line speed is terrible, and McLaren's is also the same. But here's something about sketchy. Red Bull, in the summer, Red Bull, they've announced that they're ditching Renault engine program as a customer because they don't want to deal with any more engine blowouts and poor reliability, in which they holding them back to be their title championship potential. And drivers, they had enough with Renault engine supplier. They kept poor reliability and blowouts. And the only time where Renault had decent reliability was 2016, where Daniel Ricciardo finished every race without a single DNF. With running in the Renault badge, Tag Heuer. And but there are a few drivers they kept experience with blowouts and poor reliability. And so Red Bull, they carried Renault engine since 2007, and they carried it to be champions as from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, where they won both drivers and the constructors championship using the V8s, where during that time they used V8s. But ever since 2014, everything's changed. And Renault, they did not master this V6 turbo hybrids at all. And they've experienced so many blowouts and poor reliability. And while the other rivals like Ferrari and Mercedes, they were improved. Mercedes, they mastered every single of it. For Ferrari, it was a mixed results, but later on, they became very good engine power and better reliability than Renault. And so Red Bull, they took it steady to look at the the Toro Rosso progress with Honda, and it seems to be quite positive. They do have straight line speed, and the reliability, they were slightly improving, but many people suggested they want to make a change. So Red Bull, they switched to Honda, and so it begins. Basically Renault they lost millions of dollars they won't be receiving the next year, and so um they 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 still got um McLaren, and McLaren, they kept this engine till 2020 for 2-year deal, and they switched to Mercedes engine. And so Alpine, they don't have any other customer deal. They do want to join to be their suppliers, and they had to do it their own ways. And now basically and now basically um now that 2020 they literally have Renault, they're having a very actually good season. Like, they're getting podiums and podiums left and right. And here are the members list since 2020. You got from Renault Group Link, where they have the Renault and Alpine personnel. You got Renault Group Link CEO. You got Jerome Stoll, which is the leader of this whole project. You got the F1 project leader and team principal Cyril Birtable, that he carried the team principal since 2016. And even though that he is kind of a mid team principal, but at least he was trying. At least they were able to convince some good drivers. But some of them, they're kind of morons. And now you got Martin Wachowski, the executive director. They don't have chief technical officer. They got Pat Fry as technical director. The head of aerodynamics of Dirk de Beer. Sporting director Alain Permain. Engine boss Remy Taffin. They don't have racing director, but they have a special advisor of Alain Prost, which he is basically like an advisor to the team, where you often listen to your advisor to do this and that, make some changes, this and that. And so now this leads to 2021, where Alpine, they make a rebrand to now Alpine F1 team, and they were some changes to be made. Right now, Laurent Rossi and F1 project leader now is Laurent Rossi itself now is in charge. They don't have team principal, which that is a bad sign. They still got Martin Wachowski. They don't have technical the chief technical officer. They still got Pat Fry, Dirk de Beer, Alain Permain, Remy Famin, and the racing director, which is Davide Brivier, which is the ex team principal of Suzuki of the MotoGP, which I don't know if he has zero experiences with Formula One knowledge. And then you still got special advisor of Alain Prost, but then by 22, 23, by 22 and 23, you got Otman Safnauer, which he is now a new team principal, and actually, he's done a very good job. He left Aston Martin to join Alpine F1 team to become a team principal, and actually, 2022, there were no changes, and he actually did a very good job. They finished 4th for the constructors. We're at Alpine F1 team, and things, even though they didn't have wins, a competition for wins, but the car in this next gen car actually was solid. And so both Ocon and Fernando Alonso, despite both have beef with each other, um, they still carried to finish fourth in the constructors, but the engine of Renault, they're still the same with poor reliabilities, and they don't have a good engine power that as the other rivals have. As Red Bull, um, actually got Honda, which later Red Bull powertrains. They actually had better straight line speed and better engine power than Renault, and so Red Bull, they were able to win championships left and right and win races left and right. And so 2023, oh man, things are now come to a change. Which you got Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. Both they have a beef with each other in the past, and so it's every people for themselves. And so with poor direction, instead of working with each other as a team to improve Alpine, they literally fought each other hard, and then they actually crashed each other in some occasions, and near crash each other. You got Australia, which is Gasly had a he had a fifth, top five, possibly fourth in that race, but then he rejoins the track dangerously, and he touched Esteban Ocon, and both cars crashed out of the race. Yikes! But it doesn't end there. You got British Grand Prix, where both suffer reliability issues, both DNFs, and then in Hungary, now both cars they crash out with none of which is fault, and both two drivers in Alpine suffered 2 DNFs in 2 races in a row. That is basically almost unheard of. But now, heading into summer break before Belgian Grand Prix, both Rossi and Otman Safnauer, Pat Fry, Alain Permain, and both left. They dismissed from the team, which that hurts him in the long run. And now later, Bruno Famin, which he is engine boss in that year, which he has 0 experience with F1, and now he is in charge of the whole thing. He is now the project leader and the team principal. Offense Safnauer, I'd say he didn't deserve it. He was a very decent team principal, but Anala Permain, he doesn't deserve it to be removed, sacked. But they need to make some changes. And right now they become a laughingstock. Which is no wonder Oscar Piastri, he didn't want to join Alpine. Which we'll talk about that later. And so, and despite some changes, that year, Esteban Ocon got his first podium in Monaco. And then later, Dutch Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly got his first podium with Alpine, which now delivers very decent results. And even though both drivers are evenly matched, they stuck 6th in the Constructors' Championship fighting for nothing. While McLaren, they were like 5th in the standings, but then later, McLaren, they made a mid-season resurgence. They went from They went from like near last at the bottom of the grid to now finish fourth or third at the constructors, but yeah, fourth in the constructors championship. While their rivals Aston Martin, they make good progress, but then later they fall off and they finish fifth in the constructors. While Alpine, they were way far off, and they literally fight for nothing in the constructors. And now, 2024. Oh man, this is about to get spicy. Um. Oh, also, they don't they don't have an advisor. Alan Prost left Alpine like 22 or 23, in which he doesn't get the credit where he deserves, and they don't have racing director. They don't have from 2023-24. They don't have racing director, and now they don't have chief technical officer. They don't have executive director until now. But then later, 2024, Faman is now in charge. Was still in charge, and they produced the worst car of the entire grid. And so they, with after round one, they fired Matt Harmon and Dirk De Beer after they've been in that job since Renault days, and so they got replaced with David Sanchez and David Wheeler, which they still are today. They still are in the team today, and now they got the new engine boss of Eric Magnin, in which he's still in the engine boss today, and they got Julia Rouse, a sporting director, and now later on, Luca De Mayo, which he is still an Alpine boss in that time, responsible for rebrand. Later, Faman he got released like midway of the season, and then later, he brought Oliver Oakes, a new team principal, and now here comes a complete controversy. Flavio Briatore, he comes back to F1, and he is the executive advisor to the Alpine by Luca De Mayo, and by still during the until and so Flavio Briatore, that guy, he's a very controversial bad team boss, which he was a team boss during the Renault days, and he's responsible for Crashgate scandal, and which he ordered Nelson Piquet to crash himself out of the race in order to help Fernando Alonso win the race. And he received a lifetime ban from any FIA sanction, but later he got reinstated. And so Flavio Briatore, he is now and now become the lead of F1 project leader. Now he's in charge of the Alpine project. Oliver Oakes, he did okay. He left like before the start, during the beginning of the seasons of Alpine, which we'll get to that in a minute. But 2024, they produced a very bad car, and Esteban Ocon, he left Alpine to now join Haas, in which, in the final race, it ended up being before the final race, he left Alpine for good to now join Haas to deliver more time in Haas F1 team. And he fired Esteban Ocon before the final race after basically he got second place in Brazil, and Pierre Gasly got third in Brazil, double podium for Alpine for the first time in their team history. They went from ninth in the Constructors to sixth in the Constructors' Championship. That was a big turnaround for the team. And they finished sixth in the Constructors. But they could have got higher, but it wasn't. And so, 2025 till now, Felipe Krief is in charge, the Renault Group. Flavio Briatore, he's now full control of the F1 project leader. He is now the boss. And so, they don't have team principal, executive director, and they don't have chief technical officer. And they don't have a special advisor. They don't have an advice. And they think we can do this on our own. I know what I'm doing, in which no, they're not. But now, during the season and process, or before the season, or during the season, they got Richard Lockwood as a new sporting director, and now they have racing director of Dave Greenwood, which he was chief engineer of Kimi Räikkönen during the Ferrari in 2015 and 2017. And so, and now today, Alpine, they are last in the Constructors' Championship among their rivals. Williams, the worst car on the grid, they're in fifth in the Constructors' points. Who are the teams that are ahead? Williams in fifth, Sauber in sixth, Racing Bull seventh, Aston Martin eighth, and Haas F1 team. They're ahead of Alpine in points. I mean, they got 4 scoring points, which Pierre Gasly, he's carrying Alpine on their backs, trying to basically do what they can, but I don't know. Their rivals, they're improving over time. Which Sauber, the worst car of the grid, actually got a podium in British Grand Prix. The Cake Sauber, they were last in the Constructors. They got a podium by Nico Hülkenberg. Just shows that Alpine, they have poor management and poor engine of Renault and poor energy harvesting. And under Flavio Briatore, he fired Jack Doohan literally like we're not even halfway, and he got fired literally after 5 races in of the season, or 6 races of the season. My apology. He got fired in Miami, and he got replaced by Franco Colapinto. Franco, I'm not saying he's bad. He's actually very decent. He actually did a good job in the Williams, which he actually done very good. But the problem, he keeps crashing too much often in qualifying or so on. I mean, his highest result is 13th, like 2 times that season. That's the same result like Jack Doohan in China. And Jack Doohan, Franco, he was supposed to be on a 5 race deal, but then somehow he got stayed. Despite that, and and I believe that Jack Franco Colapinto would likely going to be stayed for the remainder of the season um under Flavio Briatore banner. But I don't know he if he had a bad race, I say he's gonna be fired, and he could likely gonna be replaced by Valtteri Bottas, in which he still doesn't have a ride. But we'll see how what's going to happen next during the summer break. And so, what else in the details? Oh yeah, um, Renault, they have the worst car. The worst engine, poor speed. They don't have the speed compared to the other three manufacturers. Uh, they're alone. They're Alpine. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars producing their main works engine program. While if they gone to customer deal, it's cheaper and costs less than the main works, and so. And so, we'll see how this works out. Let's see if Alpine actually might do good later on. Or maybe he could produce bad car, depending, bad chassis, bad aero, but better, decent engine. But that's all I have to say. They don't have their star driver. The only star driver they have now is Pierre Gasly, but they lost Esteban Ocon. They lost Fernando Alonso. They lost Oscar Piastri. Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, they in the first year they actually did good in the first season of Alpine. They got their first and only win up until now, and they got with Esteban Ocon, and they got second podium with Fernando Alonso, which he got first podium in that 2021, and he left Alpine, which is a very smart move. Oscar Piastri, Alpine, they made a tweet that they thought that Oscar Piastri was going to drive for them next year in 2023, sorry. But then Oscar Piastri, they did not, he basically had no knowledge what's going on, but then be saying, I will not drive for Alpine next year. And so he went to McLaren, and now Fernando Alonso, he had a career resurgence in 2023, 8 podiums in 2023, while Oscar Piastri, he also made a resurgence. Actually, he got a few podiums, and then later McLaren in 2024, 2025, they're now competing for wins left and right. And now this year, Oscar Piastri has a potential shot to win his first Drivers' Championship, literally, like, in the third season in F1. Like, wow. And the only star driver they got is Pierre Gasly, which he actually pushing this car to the limit until the very end. But I don't know if Gasly is gonna leave, but he would like to try to push Alpine to glory. But you got two. No, hold on. During the 2024 season, Alpine, they announced that they are leaving Renault to switch to Mercedes, and so we'll see how this works out. But Alpine itself, in recent weeks or two, look at the Mayo. He's leaving Alpine F1 team as the CEO of Alpine, the Renault Group. Sorry, I don't know, just a role, but he's leaving. Basically, he should be left by now, which should now see leave in July, which, and now look at the Mayo. Basically, he doesn't want to sell Alpine F1 team because he's saying, I'm not selling it, I'm not stupid. And so he left Alpine, so that leaves Flavio Briatore in charge, in full control, in which he could sell Alpine F1 team if he wants to another possibly newcomer. And though, if he is not willing to sell it, then other people will. But I don't know. We are reaching August, in which Renault, they're leaving F1 after this. They don't want to be part, despite they signed to a new engine regulations next year. Renault likely they're gonna come back to F1. Um, I'm not sure, but there's a high probability they could come back possibly in the next decade or so. But Renault, um, they're having minimal success. Um, with ever since they don't have Red Bull and other customer team, they don't have money on their backs. And so basically, you got another new team coming of Andretti, but that will be another time. And so let me see the numbers. Um, uh, results. There it is. So basically, ever since like 2014, Renault got hold on. Ever since 2014, Renault got 14 wins in total, I think. Uh, oh god, I forgot the numbers. Let me calculate. Ever since 2014, under V6 turbo hybrid era, Renault got 13 wins in total. Their highest results of the at the manufacturer is second in the constructors by Red Bull only twice, in 2014 and 2016. And they left Honda, and they left to Honda, which Red Bull, they're having more success than Renault. They got the speed and improved reliability with right personnel. And while McLaren, Renault, they don't have a good personnel like other rival teams, but they got 13 wins in their name in 2014 to 2021, while they got to re-rent the Alpine. And so while their rivals, they're getting more wins, and since they left Renault. And so will Alpine come back? Will Renault ever come back while they're running a new engine rules? I highly doubt it. If there's a new team, new team, they're coming in like the 12th team on the grid. I say there's high possibility they could supply Renault on their new rules. So there's a high probability if there's a new team coming into F1 in later years with the 12th team on the grid. I say Renault, they're gonna step in and they're gonna show the Renault engine they become good, reliable, and possibly become stronger than the other rivals and prove them wrong. And so that's about it, guys. That is my rant and my opinion for what's going on with Alpine and Renault. And so to me, I say that Alpine, they might finish last in the Constructors' Championship by the end of the season. And Renault engine, they finish last compared to the other rivals of Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull Powertrains Honda, doing better than Renault. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.